Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of Player Ratings. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the likes, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my ratings. And unfortunately, Chelsea were held to a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge by Nottingham Forest. A resolute Forest side made it difficult for us. We did create opportunities, we did break them down, but unfortunately, we weren't able to take them. Christopher Nkunku and Joao Felix guilty of missing two of the best ones very near the end of the game. But we sit fourth going into the October international break, and tougher tests ahead after the international break. But yeah, I think we could be happy with how we've started this season. In terms of the lineup, it was exactly the same team that went out and beat Brighton 4-2 previously. So yeah, no complaints from me on that front. But let's dive right into it, guys. Starting with Robert Sanchez, and having made two awful errors against Brighton last weekend, this weekend Sanchez very much redeemed himself, made some brilliant saves to keep us in the game, basically to stop us from losing. Two really good saves at the end. Yes, his distribution was still questionable, as it always is, but this was a really good performance from Sanchez, in my opinion. And yeah, similar to the Bournemouth game, his saves made sure that we left with something, and without those, we would have been on the receiving end of another defeat this season. So yeah, fair play to him for that. And it's frustrating because, he's got this in his locker, but you also know full well that at some point soon he's going to make some more errors that are going to cost us. But in terms of this game today, he was very good. So yeah, for me, Sanchez is going to get a 7.5 out of 10. Moving on to Malo Gusto then. I'd say this was arguably his worst game in a Chelsea shirt for quite a long time. He was inverting into midfield, from right back. He got on the ball quite a lot. He had a few shots from distance, one that forced Sells into a good save near the end. But ultimately, this really wasn't one of his better games. He could have done better as well to challenge. I think it was Milinkovic who got the flick onto Wood for the first goal. Could have been a bit stronger there. And ultimately, just not a particularly good afternoon for Gusto. But, you're going to have those. He's been brilliant for us since he came in, and you're not going to be able to perform to your best every single week. So, yeah, these afternoons happen. It wasn't his best, and I'd say that Gusto was a 5 out of 10. For me, moving on to Wesley Fofana then. I thought he was all right. Again, he was beaten too easily, but I think it was Williams right at the end before Sanchez bailed him out with a brilliant save. Needs to do better there. Obviously picked up his 5th booking of the season, so he's going to be missing the game against Liverpool after the break. Fofana was all right. Nothing incredible, but nothing particularly bad either. He was a commanding presence at the back, like he has been at times this season. But he didn't have an awful lot to do. But of course, being beaten by Williams like that, as I referenced, is far from ideal. And against a better level of player, we could have absolutely been punished for that error. So look, I thought Fofana was all right. Nothing incredibly bad, but again, nothing really to shout home about. So I'd say that Fofana, I'd give him a 6 out of 10. Moving on to Levi Colwill then. Now, I thought this was a good game from Colwill. Made two really, really important blocks, particularly one right at the end of the first half, which could have prevented us from heading into the break a goal down. He did well. He was good on the ball. There was some good passing on display as well. And this was a positive performance from Colwill. And he's going to be really important at Anfield because he's probably going to have to be leading that back line, marshalling that back line without Fofana alongside him. So this was positive from Colwill. And I'd probably say a 6.5 out of 10 for him. Moving on to Marc Cucurella at left back then. Not really inverting into midfield that much. I thought Cucurella, he dealt with Hudson-Odoi reasonably well. But he didn't offer too much going forward. And this was kind of just an okay day at the office for him. This wasn't outstanding. This wasn't, oh my God, he was terrible. This was just, yeah, do you know what? You played okay. He didn't offer too much going forward. Could have seen a bit more from him. I prefer it when he inverts into midfield. There wasn't an awful lot of that in this game against Forest. But look, Cucurella, I thought he was just slightly better than average. So I'd give him a 6 out of 10 for his performance. Moving into the midfield then, onto Moises Caicedo. And this wasn't one of his better performances. There were some good things, but there were also some things that weren't so great from him. He could have definitely done better in a number of situations. But he got stuck in. He made some important interceptions and whatnot in the centre of the park. But yeah, it's not the level that we know that he's capable of. It's not the level that we've seen him reach for Chelsea at times already this season. And yeah, we'll be hoping for better performances after the international break. But it wasn't a disaster. There wasn't really anything particularly to shout home about. So for me, I'm giving Moises Caicedo, I think a 6 out of 10 is fair for his performance as well. Moving on to his midfield partner, Enzo Fernandez. Now, I thought Enzo was, I'll be honest, guys, Enzo was poor. Enzo was poor today. It's one of them where, off the ball, I think he really, really struggles. I don't think he's got that athleticism to get up and down the pitch. And in that sort of left attacking midfield kind of role, advanced number 8 that he's playing, you need more from him sort of in the final third. There were no real sort of line breaking passes. There were no real moments of quality. You expect him to be popping up on the edge of the box, maybe even getting into the box. One thing we were lacking big time was box presence against Forest. And, every time we got the ball in a wide position, you look up and there's only Nicholas Jackson in the box. Enzo needs to be getting in the box. He needs to be on the edge of the box if he's going to play in that advanced position. And this wasn't a particularly good game from him on that one. So yeah, it's the same old question with Enzo, isn't it? How do we get the best out of him in this team? I don't feel that this position he played in yesterday really utilises the best from him. I prefer to see him playing as the deepest midfield player, get him on the ball, get him picking up the ball from the defenders, starting attacks with his brilliant range of passing that he's got. But yeah, this was disappointing from Enzo, and it sort of leaves you scratching your head a little bit as to how can we get the best out of him in this team? Where do we play him? So for me, yeah, I give Enzo a 5 out of 10. This was disappointing, and yeah, it should have been. It should have been better. It should have been better. That's the reality of the situation. But moving on to the front four, then let's start with Noni Madueke. There have been shouts from a lot of fans before the game for Madueke to be benched in favour of Pedro Neto, but Maresca stuck with him. And you know what? Madueke was probably the only forward player that was actually a threat in this game. He looked a threat in that first half. He was taking on his fullback. He was having success. He was getting into the boxes, putting dangerous balls in. I think he had the most touches in the opposition box, certainly in the first half. It might have even been in the whole game, but definitely in the first half he did. And he was rewarded with his good performance with a well-taken goal for the equaliser. He was taken off towards the end with a bit of an injury precaution. Maresca subsequently said that, he's fine, so there's no issues there. But this was better from Madueke. At times he still needs to perhaps not take the shot on and look to pass to a teammate in a better position. But yeah, this was more back to the Madueke we'd seen in the first few games of the season after kind of quietish games against West Ham and Brighton. So I thought this was positive from him, and I would give Madueke a 7 out of 10 for his performance. Moving on to Jadon Sancho then. This was probably Sancho's, I'd say, worst performance since he arrived at the club. And that's not me saying he was terrible. It just wasn't as good as what he's produced for us previously. I think Sancho and Madueke have got the opposite issue. Madueke is one will perhaps take the shot on too often and not look for a teammate in a better position, whereas Sancho's always looking for the teammate where actually we could sometimes do with him just taking the shot on and trying his luck. I felt that he was okay, but we got so many players that can just receive the ball out wide and just pass it inside. I felt that he gave Aina a bit of an easy afternoon. He definitely could have made it more difficult for him. And yeah, this wasn't particularly good from Sancho on his third Chelsea start in a row, looking for his 4th assist in 4 games. Expected a little bit more. He was just okay, but the competition for places in the wide areas fierce. Okay is not really cutting it. So yeah, for me, Jadon Sancho, I think I'd probably say a 5.5 out of 10 for his performance. Moving on to Nicholas Jackson then. This was a strange performance from Jackson. He just literally he was not in the game at all. Struggled to get involved, didn't have much of the ball at all. We also struggled to get him in the game as a team. But yeah, this was just, really not very good from Jackson at all. Just not involved, almost anonymous. And I'm surprised that Maresca waited so long to make those changes, to bring on the likes of Nkunku or whatnot. That should have been earlier. You could clearly see that Jackson wasn't having an impact in the game, and it would have been beneficial to make those switches earlier on. But yeah, this was a really quiet game from Jackson, probably his worst performance of the season. Not involved at all, as I said. And yeah, he was below average, I have to be honest. He was probably our worst player. So yeah, I think a 4.5 out of 10 for him. And moving on to Cole Palmer then to round proceedings out. Forest tried to do a job on him, man marking him, making it difficult for him. He created a few opportunities, a superb piece of skill to set up a really good chance for himself near the end of the game, but he was denied by a good save from Sells. As I said, little moments of magic. But other than that, it was a quieter afternoon for him. And he tried his best, but it wasn't his best game. But it was by no means terrible. So, yeah, we know we're going to see more from Palmer this season, but teams are going to make it tough for him. And there are going to be occasions where he does get marked out of the game and his influence is not as big as we or him would like it to be. But yeah, I feel that, for Palmer, I'd say a 6 out of 10 is pretty fair on that one. But yeah, guys, that rounds out the player ratings. The subs, there's not really time. They all come on like 10 minutes from the end. Nkunku and Felix both should have scored their opportunities. Mudryk, I thought, had a decent cameo. Brilliant run and cross for Nkunku, who should have scored. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much to say on the substitutes, so they came on too late. But yeah, guys, that is my player ratings. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you're smashing that like button. Make sure you're subscribing to Chelsea Fan TV. And I'll catch you again in another one soon. Up the Chelsea and peace out, guys.